Warning: viewer discretion is advised. At any moment, an ordinary day can turn extraordinary, and the usual can swiftly become something terrifying, plunging us into nightmares. This week, once again, I've scoured the darkest corners of the internet to share two truly chilling clips captured just before disaster struck. From the Amritsar train disaster in India to a train crash in Greece, we have stories from all over the world. So take a seat, grab a drink, and close the curtains. Let's dive straight in. Our first entry takes us back to this channel, where I've explored some profoundly tragic and bizarre occurrences, from a man who died ziplining on his ponytail to another man who paid the ultimate price while toying with snakes. These incidents were undoubtedly crazy and absurd ways to meet. However, the events we'll discuss in this century somehow surpassed all of the absurdity and avoidable loss of life by far. Recorded on the evening of October 19th, 2018, in the city of Amritsar, the second largest city in the state of Georgia, with about 9 million Hindus across India and around the world busy celebrating the Share, a major Hindu festival celebrated at the end of another festival each year. So we have two festivals back to back to celebrate. Amongst other things, the main tradition is to burn effigies of Ravana, symbolizing the victory of good over evil. These effigies are often huge in size and packed to the brim with fireworks and other firecrackers. So when they're lit, it crackles and pops in all different colors, creating lots of noise and often attracting huge crowds. As the day progressed, the streets filled with laughter and joy, and as the night settled, many effigies were lit all across Amritsar, with one particular beam on the eastern outskirts attracting a crowd around the sounds of people. Before it got too late, around 300 people from the crowd went through a small gate onto a nearby elevated stretch of land, attracted by the energy and the 6-foot wall around it. Surprisingly, this land turned out to be live train tracks, which everyone must have known, especially since they were locals. However, this fact didn't seem to bother anyone. They continued to watch the firecrackers, record videos on their phones, and have a great time. Suddenly, darkness passed over their minds as they noticed a train approaching. Despite the loud sounds from the effigy and the crowd, everyone heard the train coming. People managed to jump out of the way or onto the adjacent track to avoid being hit. However, before they could even catch their breath or process what had happened, a much faster second train flew by in the opposite direction, causing devastation. Only then did the full extent of the situation become clear. People turned to their phones, using their torches to see the scene. Many were injured, with bodies and limbs scattered around. Providing aid and identifying the casualties was a huge task, as over 100 people had been injured in some way. Some had lost their lives or limbs, making the process even more difficult. On October 20th, the day after the accident, locals held a sit-in protest along the railway, demanding action and compensation from officials and the train driver. Many wondered why the effigy was built so close to the tracks and facing them. Sadly, on the evening of October 19th, authorities announced they had found 50 bodies. However, the next day, 9 more bodies were discovered, increasing the official death toll for this completely avoidable incident. 59 people lost their lives because they were focused on a shiny, colorful fire instead of their surroundings. Safety around trains can be questionable, as shown by a previous story about a man killed by a flying cow while waiting on train tracks in India. It seems like a recipe for disaster, with tracks meeting the noise of oncoming trains. According to reports, the driver reported the incident upon returning to the station and claimed to have received a green signal, unaware of the hundreds of people on the tracks. Remember, if you're ever in the dark watching fireworks, stay safe. Be careful not to stand on train tracks. It's really dangerous. Well, that's the end of the video. May the 59 people who lost their lives rest in peace. This tragic event occurred on February the 28th, 2023, in the southern area of Greece. A 722-passenger train, Intercity 62, left Athens heading to its destination. The train lines were doubled, with each train passing approximately every 9 minutes past 11. Intercity 62, carrying 340 passengers, departed from Rita Station but failed to switch to the correct track. It continued downhill for 25 kilometers until around 11 a.m. when it collided with a freight train traveling on the same track at over 100 miles per hour, all captured in this CCTV footage. The collision caused the first 4 passenger cars to derail and explode into flames, reaching 1300 degrees Celsius. Emergency services responded to numerous 911 calls and found a scene of pure devastation. The passengers were unrecognizable, and the situation worsened as the train cars caught fire. Firefighters and first responders worked tirelessly to save as many lives as possible amidst the chaos. Some passengers managed to escape the train or were ejected through carriage windows. One victim recounted having to choose between being burned alive or jumping and risking breaking all their bones. This became the deadliest rail disaster in Greek history, claiming 57 lives, mostly students. 66 injured people were taken to the hospital, with 6 put on life support. The Greek government declared a 3-day period of mourning the next day, during which flags flew at half-mast and celebratory events were postponed. An investigation into the incident was launched, focusing on the 59-year-old station master who directed Intercity 62 onto the wrong track and instructed them to disregard danger signals. It was determined that the station master's numerous fatal mistakes were the main cause of the tragedy. Facing multiple charges of disrupting transport and endangering lives, he was arrested. Following the disaster, Transport Minister Kostas resigned from his position, acknowledging responsibility for the crash and admitting failure to modernize the Greek railway system to meet 21st century standards. That's the end of the video. May all the victims in this crash and this video rest in peace.